today definitely have someone very special on the show. I can finally, say one of my little bros played with me at the University of Kentucky. This guy is definitely someone, who strikes a nerve being from the East Coast, me being from Boston, him being from New York. The competitive nature with basketball, up and down 95, going back and forth to Boston and then New York, through Connecticut. This brother, warms my heart because we had a close relationship in school, and definitely kept in touch with him a lot more than my other teammates. But before I get into introducing them, make sure you subscribe to the Burn and Turner Show and also the Field of 68 Media Network Group. This guy is from White Plains, New York, but if you ask him, he's from the Bronx. He's from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? So don't insult his street savviness and his gangster by the name of, but because he comes from White Plains. He's really Brooklyn and Bronx. So this guy's more New York City than it gets. And I'm super proud of the coach he's become. I mean, definitely always been brilliant as a player and as a coach. Watching him as a coach, definitely proud of him. Head coach of Manhattan College, Steve Masiello. What's up, brother?
My big brother, Wayne Turner, man. Great to be on with you, and thank you for the kind comments. But definitely going down memory lane, just seeing you, so many great times and experiences, not only in college, but after college. And just great to be on with you right now, man. I'm really excited about it.
Definitely. Man, watched you, over the years coaching. The story that sticks out in my mind when I first met you at Kentucky, you were a point guard. So right away, you already know you had competition. My ears was up. I was like, who's this new guy coming in from New York, scoring all these points? I think he was averaging probably like 30 something in high school.
Yeah.
I was like,
the knapsack league, you get some points up there. You know that better than anybody.
Right, exactly. But the knapsack was tough though. Wasn't there was some good guards. There was some good guards in that league.
Yep.
And you could shoot.
Yeah.
That's one thing right away. Yep.
But
I remember I was going so hard at you one day, and you said, bro, listen, I'm not trying to go to the NBA. I came here to learn how to coach. You remember that?
I remember like it was yesterday. Here I come down, and I'm like, I got you and E when I'm a freshman. Ants is big, strong, 20, Ant probably like 25 years old at the time, it felt like at least.
Right.
And then you, super talented, unbelievable athlete, jet quick. Guys just, I'm not in that level. And I kind of knew it, but I think the greatest thing I could say about you, one of the greatest things is you never treated me, you came at me like we were competing for a starting spot every day. And you tried to kick my brains in, and it made me a better man. And I appreciate that so much. Like, in looking back at that, you don't realize that when you're in that storm or you're going through it. But, when we got on the court, it was just, and I think that's why our teams were so good, to be honest, because 1 through 15 was so competitive. I mean, there was no like, take it easy on this guy, whoever it was, Cam, Saul, me, you. I mean, those practices were fun and competitive. And individuals were even sometimes more fun when we got to go, one-on-one and don't let me make a shot on you because I'm gonna let you know about it. I'm gonna let you know about it all weekend. But those are some of the best times of my life. They really were.
Right, exactly. And hey, you know what? You made me come to practice. I knew I had to come practice though. It wasn't gonna be if I came acting like I'm tired or sleepy. You definitely took full advantage of that.
I'm gonna try my best to. You know that. I'm gonna let you know about that.
And what's strange is because nowadays you don't have guys like yourself around who were actually good teammates.
Yeah.
Even though you walked on, you could have easily went and played somewhere, low level D1 if you wanted to. I felt like if that was your goal, I felt like you were someone because you shot the ball so well.
Yeah, and it was never,
they make these jokes about the human cigar, but they had. Hey, when you came in the game, they know they had to guard you. which reminds me of this. Like after our 1998 game, right? Did you and Scott have cigars in your hands?
Yeah, yeah, me and John. Hey, you. Wow, we're gonna keep this somewhat.
Listen,
We can't say
no,
too many
only
things.
reason why I bring that up is because I did an appearance. You know how
Yeah,
we do
yeah,
those appearances,
yeah.
you sign autographs, by the blessing of just being a Kentucky basketball player. That's the luxury we get,
Um,
as a championship team, especially. And someone had painted an art picture of our championship team, and it had the cigars on it. That's the only reason why I'm asking you, because I said, wait, when did they have? I don't remember. That went over my head.
I don't know.
So
I don't know if you remember that night. We got back to the hotel and we had our own floor, and we were all celebrating, and we were in San Antonio, obviously, and somehow Scott and I got cigars. So I didn't even know what to do with them, but we were gonna look cool with them, I guess. And I remember us just running around the hotel, and I think we all wound up going down by the pool. Jamal McGlure was missing. I remember us trying to find Jamal, and none of us could find Jam. I remember that, and he showed up about an hour later. But we had a fun night that night. That was a great night for us.
yeah, definitely. I vaguely remember that night. Going into the hotel was like we couldn't even get in there. There
Yeah,
was so
yeah,
many fans, and so many lights flashing, but it was definitely a great, great experience and memory. That just can I just remember Cameron being mad about that, the
right.
picture.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that too. I
yeah,
remember
so I
that
had
too.
to ask you about that situation because I never saw it in any of our pictures. But
Yeah, no. And this is how I remember. This is when you're spoiled as a player. Like I'll never forget your birthday is always right around the Elite Eight because March 22nd, right? Is that what it is, right?
my God,
Right.
I appreciate it. Yep,
So
yep.
I just remember like it was not like we'd be getting ready to play in a Sweet 16 or Elite Eight normally, and that was your birthday. And I remember like just that, like that, how you associate certain things, and your birthday something I always associate with being a late run in March Madness. And so like those are just the little things that you start to appreciate when you look back on times that was just awesome.
Right. And then moving forward, yeah, I graduated, I left. You and Jamal were the big men on campus. Y'all was the seniors that year, and
Yep.
I felt like I was leaving behind my brothers. But I know that year for y'all was a little bit of a challenge. I think
Yep.
Bogans came in. You
Yep.
still had Tayshawn.
Yep.
And y'all did well. Y'all did well moving on. But where did you you know, where did you get your graduate assistant? Like where did you go to like when you started coaching, where was your first stop? Was it
No, it was Tulane. Remember?
Manhattan?
No, Coach Finney. I don't know if you remember. Coach Finney got the Tulane job in 2000 of my senior year, and I basically Coach Smith actually. Let me rewind. Coach Smith actually offered me an opportunity to stay at Kentucky as like a assistant video. I can't even remember the exact title. I think he was going to try to create something for me, which was very, very kind of him, and something he didn't have to do. And then Sean got the head job at Tulane and gave me an opportunity to go down there with him. And Coach Finney just basically created a spot for me. And it would have been like more of a Dobo role. And I wound up going down to Tulane with Coach Finney. Spent a year there with him and really got my feet wet. Didn't make any money. Thank God I was able to do that for a year. And I literally, like the first 2 months, I slept on Poole Williamson's couch, who was an assistant. And I'm fresh out of college. I'm 22 years old, and I'm just trying to get into the business any way I can. And I'm just trying to make a mark for myself. And this, when you want to do it on your own merit, you want just a door to open for you, and then you want to kind of stay in there. And that was what was really important to me. And then from Tulane, I was very fortunate to get hired at Manhattan College as a full-time assistant at basically 22 years old. I was a full-time assistant here at Manhattan. And that really got my career kind of going on the trajectory, I think. And I was fortunate to have some really good people around me and just got on a great run with great people. Obviously went back to Louisville, and now I'm back in Manhattan as the head coach.
When did you feel like you could be really good at the coaching business? Like, because you and I both know it's a challenge, especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
getting over that the hurdle?
So
Like, where did you feel like, okay, I could succeed? What let you know?
I think as a player, I saw things, and I wasn't playing. I'm practicing every day, and in games, I'm looking at it as a coach, and I'm not playing 20 minutes or anything like that. So I thought as a player, I was like, hey, I think I have a good mind for this, and whether it was grabbing you to the side, like, hey, Wayne, man, take the blitz on. I think you can get down, like whatever things we would, you know what I mean? Like, I think, but then you get into it and you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot I got to learn. And I'll never forget, I finished my 5th year overall, my 4th year at Manhattan. And we had some success in Manhattan. And I was fortunate enough at 26, 27 years old to get offered a job at Louisville and go work for Rick Pitino. And at that time, I was like, man, I'm going to show everyone how good I am at this. And I went down to Louisville and I realized I knew nothing about coaching, and I really I was like, oh my God, like I am so, like, you talk about a rude awakening, and not from any other standpoint, but just I was clueless. You go through it, and sometimes I think people confuse results with competence. And I think I did that at a young age because I was around winning teams. You think you're good, and that's not always the case. Sometimes you could be lacking knowledge or competence, but still have results that work. And what Louisville really taught me and Coach Pitino taught me was to examine methodology and process. And Kevin Willard, I remember, Kevin being the top assistant then, and I did my first scout. And I mean, Kevin was like, you're kidding me, basically, like this isn't serious, right? And I think every scout I had that year, we lost. Like, I think every scout we lost. So it was kind of like a moment, like, either you're going to go figure this out and start learning from some people and get humble, or you're not going to last very long. And it was a real kind of aha moment for me. And I just tried to pick up every ounce of information, kind of reprogram yourself, learn the business side of it. I mean, obviously, any person can watch basketball and have a feel for it, but to really know the intricacies of schematics and schemes and motivation and budgets and business side of things, that's a whole other world. And that's when I finished after about, I was at Louisville for 6, but around my 4th year at Louisville, working for Coach Pitino, I had such a self-confidence about myself in a different way. It was just, I knew what I knew, and I thought I could be pretty good at this if I got an opportunity. And I just want to try to get that opportunity one day.
Yeah, got a little bit of that, and share that with you for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely didn't still know, a lot of things, but you realize how much, coaches prepare.
Yes.
And then your team comes to practice unfocused.
Yes.
How about that? So seeing that from the other side, I was like, oh, okay. This is why, we had to get on the line and wake up.
I'll tell you what really threw me off. From the other side was, and we did this almost a whole year, 6 a.m.s. I remember as a player waking up at like 4:45, 5 o'clock for a 6:30 practice, and you thought, and then you had to come back at 2:30, and you thought you were exhausted. You were like, how am I going to go to class? You got to nap it, and you were just exhausted. As a coach, doing 6 a.m.s, I never knew how long a coach's day was, because as a coach, you're up at 3, you're preparing for your practice, you're here, you're not going home taking a nap, you're not over in the cafeteria hanging out, you're watching film, you come back for your next, so there's so many things that you didn't realize as a player. I didn't realize as a player that our coaches that we were so fortunate to be around, whether it was Coach Pitino, Jim O'Brien, Sean Finney, Tubby Smith, George Felton, that just made things kind of look easy. And I think the great ones do that. And we were fortunate to be around a lot of great ones during our playing career.
You're definitely blessed by that, by having those guys around and learning from them. But how was it for you going to Louisville? Like, you're a Kentucky Wildcat player, you know what I'm saying? Like, how was that feeling? Like, that first day you stepped on Louisville's campus.
Yeah.
Knowing you're with Coach, but
yep.
How did you feel about that?
Well, you know this, especially being East Coast. We were always a little loyal to Coach P. You know, East Coast guys playing for him and those type of things. And when I was a Rick Pitino guy, and that was kind of my identity. I go back with him from being a ball boy, and everyone knows all that stuff. So, whether Coach was at Alaska, Louisville, Michigan, wherever he was, I wanted to be a part of that. And Kentucky is such a special place, and like unless you live it, you can't put into words the impact it has. Like I want people to understand. I'll never forget in '97 when we were in Alaska. Well, I don't even know if you remember this. We had fans that drove to Alaska. I didn't even know you could drive to Alaska. Okay. And these fans went up through Canada. I'm like, how do you drive? And they took a ferry and did that. And I'm like, this is unreal. But that's the dedication, support, and love Kentucky fans have. So going to Louisville as an assistant, I was in a unique spot because Kentucky fans didn't like Kentucky players or coaches going to Louisville. And the Louisville fans kind of always looked at you, well, you went to Kentucky. So you're kind of caught in between of both, where you're really not an all in Louisville person in their eyes. And you're kind of betraying Kentucky in their eyes. And really it's neither. It's you're just trying to better your career and you're trying to do something you love and do things. But as time went on, and Walt and I were on staff together and different things, you get to appreciate the best of Louisville. And I also got to obviously appreciate the best things of Kentucky. And I always pulled for Kentucky, obviously. Anytime when I was at Louisville, anytime they weren't playing us, you want to see UK do well. I mean, that's where we went. That's where we spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put on that campus. And that place will always hold an unbelievable special place in my heart.
Who was the best player you recruited at Louisville?
Good question. I think probably the highest rated player would probably have been Samato at the time. Samato Samuels. I think he was like number one. But probably Earl Clark was, he'd be up there as one of the best. I was fortunate to recruit, obviously, Russ Smith, and never thought he would be what he was. Russ's dad and I go back for my father and Russ's father were friends. Russ and I are friends. So Russ has probably had the best career of anyone, obviously. But I don't think anyone thought Russ would be what he was. And I think, that's a credit to Coach Pitino and Russ. But I remember seeing Russ so many times. I was like, I wasn't sure if he was quite good enough, and Ralph Willard loved his hand speed and his ability to do things. And Ralph was a big believer in Russ's ability, and I had the relationship. So he would definitely be one of the probably most impactful guys in the program that I was fortunate enough to be a part of bringing in.
Yeah, and a real great kid too. I got to work with him 1 year. Really, really, really good kid. I mean, I would have liked to see him last a little long in the NBA. I thought he could play in the NBA because his size is a little underestimated, but I think he's still doing well from what he did professionally, and just enjoy working with that kid. So I'm glad you brought him up. He's one of my favorite
True
guys.
Story about Russ. I'll never forget after his freshman year, he had a rough freshman year. His knee, I think he had like his knee scoped or something, and he had some injuries. And he was almost in tears. And I was in recruiting. I think I was in recruiting in like Indiana or Illinois somewhere. And Russ called me. Little Russ called me and he's like, I think I want to leave. I just don't know if this is the place for me. It's not going my way. And I'll never forget. I clicked over. I called his dad, and his dad is one of the most stand-up, straight shooters, just great person there is. And I said, Russ, what do you want to do? Little Russ isn't happy. And he goes, I'll tell you what I want to do. Get him on the phone. Put him on the phone. He goes, you're going to shut your mouth. You're going to go in the gym. You're going to work your ass off. You're going to get up here this summer. We're going to go run the beach, and we're going to get in the best shape of your lives. And that's that. And I don't want to hear another word about it. And that lasted about 20 seconds of Russ Smith thinking he wanted to leave Louisville, and the rest is history. And there's no doubt in my mind, a big part of that is because of his father's mentality of just perseverance and resilience. And it's, when I think back to how many very few dads would have that type of conversation with their son at that juncture. Big Russ's thing was, are you safe? Are you okay? You getting your meal? You're good? Life is okay? All right, then I don't want to hear anything else. Get in the gym and do what you do now. And, it's really a story that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I got to meet Big Russ. He's a real good dude. I got a haircut at one of his barbershops in Harvard. He invited me a lot. Went and got a free haircut.
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely did. Have you saw Kentucky any this year?
I have. I've watched them quite. I actually just watched some of them the other day against Auburn. I watched them, and I saw them play a little bit.
What do you make of this year's team? I mean, obviously they're struggling. They've had a tough, challenging year. You played at Kentucky. I mean, you saw what that fan base is like. I mean, with COVID going on, I mean, what is your take on? I mean, everybody's going to have certain excuses and certain things come up. But how much of you're going through it yourself as a coach. Yep. How much has it impacted your team? COVID?
Well, I think it's impacted everyone. And every college athlete that's performing is under unbelievable anxiety, stress, uncertainty is the biggest.
It's an excuse, though.
I don't think here's my view on excuses. I think excuses it can never justify the result. Meaning, once I decide to have the season and once we decide to play, I have to take into consideration what these young men are dealing with, but I can't let that be a reason we don't be our best every day. And that's my job to manage that. My job is to make sure they feel safe, they're secure, they have a platform to discuss how they're feeling. But at the end of the day, I also have to teach them laser focus right now. And I think that's very important. I think them locking in, because I think what happens is a lot of people are guilty of using things that are going on in their life as a reason to justify shortcomings. And I don't subscribe to that. I think once we decide that we're going to take the next step and we're going to go down this path, that we have to be all in it and we can't use anything else. We have to have awareness about these things and we have to plan properly. And, whether that means cutting down practice a little more or less team meals or whatever you have to do with your team regarding to these COVID situations, or allowing more time for testing, maybe not having them lift as much so they're not lifting, testing, film, and practice as much. You have to consider all of these things now. So I think it's a new day, but I don't think that should ever be a reason for your lack of success. I just don't think you can use it. As far as Kentucky, I think John Calipari is one of the best coaches in the country. I think the job he's done, his home record, his overall record of what he's accomplished, you can't argue his numbers. And I don't want to sit here and say, well, he's having a bad year, he should be allowed. But certain times things just don't align. And I think the biggest thing is, as a society, we really want to see steps skipped as a society. And it doesn't work that way. We want to see it start from like this small thing and go into the result we want overnight. And the amazing thing about life, especially sports, is there's no clear path to success and there's no linear path. The journey is where the success happens. You know that, I know that. I could go back to times when, my sophomore year, your junior year, we lost to Louisville at home. We lost to Ole Miss that year. We had some losses we shouldn't have had, candidly. You know what I mean? I remember our freshman year, we opened up losing to Clemson. Like losses that just shouldn't happen. And then how you manage that, how you handle that, I think is what determines success. Everyone has problems, but who comes up with the best solutions, I think in time is what determines success. And I think to ever write a Kentucky team off, especially under John Calipari, is just foolishness. Let's put it this way. If they go win the SEC tournament, if there is one, and they make a run at, then they're going to say, what a brilliant coach he is. Well, let's allow him to do the job he's done. I think he's earned that right with the things he's accomplished up to this point. That's how I feel about it.
You think they'll make the tournament this year?
I do. I think they have a lot of good pieces. I think they have talent. I don't think they're shooting it great. I can relate to that. We can sit here and say, hey, maybe it's because they didn't have the preseason that they normally have or the summer train, like all these things. At the end of the day, I just think, Don Calipari will figure it out. And I think those kids will figure it out, because the one thing at Kentucky is you're not at the University of Kentucky playing unless you're committed to greatness. And that's a big part. Like, any conception or anything like that, or misconception that, anyone there that's wearing that jersey doesn't want to be great. You don't go to Kentucky unless you want to be the best. And that's just part, no matter who's coaching there, that's understood from the second you step on campus that it's greatness. And that's it. That's all it can be.
And I think, part of that's the frustration of the fans as well, because they're used to players staying a little longer and being great. They're used to watching them become great instead of them going to the NBA and being great.
Yep.
And so, which brings up, like, how do you feel about the one and done? Like, I mean, it's become pretty much the trend with Kentucky, but now Duke's in the mix, and a few other schools are letting some one and dones go too. Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's hard today, period. Whether if you're trying to build 3 and 4 year players, well, the downside is the transfer. Now you're putting 2 or 3 years in investing, and then they might transfer when it's time to kind of reap the rewards of all the hard work that you've put in, time, equity that you've put in with them. And that's a real thing in college basketball today. I think we had over 700 transfers last year. Now, are you seeing as many transfers from the Power Five to other Power Fives? No, not as much as you're seeing from mid to high and high down. That's more of the trend. But I think the one and done is extremely challenging as well. I think there's pros and cons to each. You look at a school like Villanova, who has typically done it with 2 and 3 and 4 year players, getting better every year, and really, individual instruction, player development, and guys getting better every year. You look at a place like Kentucky or Duke, and they're kind of getting the best players in the country, more of a one and done. I think you could do it both ways. I just think when you're in this business and you play this sport at this level, there is such a fine line between winning it all, success, and losing. I mean, it's a very fine line, and managing that, whether you're dealing with an 18 or 19-year-old or 22 or 23-year-old, is always going to be a challenge no matter what. I think the perfect world is you have elite talent, regardless of age, with terrific role players. When I say role players, I look back at our years, and I think what made our team so good, like when you were a freshman, right? You weren't, it was Tony and Twan and Walt and those guys, but you understood your role. You were totally bought into it, and you knew your time was coming. You look at a guy like Anthony Epps, Cameron Mills, Jeff Shepard. Those guys are what made those guys able to be stars. And then your time came for you to be the guy, and you were that. And what allowed that is the role players around you. And I think that's what really makes teams great. I think a lot of teams have 2 or 3 stars, but what is 4 through 8? Are they really good role players? Are they bought into that? And like, I know your mentality, because I was around you. You were trying to find Shep. If Shep was coming off a pin down, you were looking for him. There are some guards today that they're looking for themselves first, then they're trying to find Shep. That doesn't work, and so that mentality, I don't care if you're 22 or you're 18. I just think that's a special mentality to find, and when you find that, you gotta really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And we didn't run from the competition, and that's another part of it. Nowadays, we can't pinpoint them out, but there's some guys running from the competition. I could easily transfer. Like I call that running from the competition. Stay there and compete and earn your minutes. And that's what made us so good back then, I feel like, because you couldn't run from that competition.
Ever. Wasn't allowed with us. You would get laughed out if you did that. You'd get it so bad if you ran from competition. I mean, if you sat out of practice with us, the players were on you. Never mind the coaches. So I mean, you know, you look at what we had up front with Nazi, Jamal, and Mike and different guys. I mean, everywhere you turned, it was competition. Everywhere.
Right. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Was the second round? Was the second round of the first round? Was first round or second round of the
First round?
2014 NCAA tournament?
Got me. They got me.
Oh man,
they got me, man.
Hey, your team was ready. I mean, how ready were you?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. You know, we lose the year before to Iona, and I was crushed. I was devastated, and my kids were really crushed. And we had almost everyone back, and I was like, you know what? If we could just make this adversity our advantage, and that's a big thing I believe in. I said, if we got a chance. So we have a really good year that year. We win the MAC tournament, and I am elated. And I think I have a really good team. And you don't get to say that often. Like, I had a good team that I believed in that won. And there are a lot of times you have good teams, but you don't get where you think you're going to go. And we got where we thought. I never thought we would draw Coach Pitino and the University of Louisville in the first round. I thought they were unbelievably seated very low. I thought they were a 2-3, and they wound up getting a 4 that year, I believe. And
won it that year. Connecticut won it that year, and we beat them 3 times.
You beat them last game of the year by like 40. I don't know if you remember that. Like at Yum Center, last game of the year, senior, I think you won by like 30-something. And I was just like, and I'll never forget, it came up on the screen, and I was just like, they did not do this. They did not do this. Because the one thing I thought it made it was about me and Coach Pitino. And you really want it to be about the kids, especially at this level, because it's about the kids. And I wanted them to really see their name. And it took me about, it really, I'll never forget that night. I was actually a little down about it. I was down about it for about 6-7 hours. And then I was like, you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself, get up. And we locked in as a staff and as an organization and as players, as well as I could have and we could have. And you know, we had a very strong game plan, we thought. I thought we knew some things about them. I recruited a lot of those guys, you know, on that team. So I was familiar with some of them. I knew what they were doing. So I thought I could at least give my kids a blueprint that could help them be successful. And what I really just relied on my kids about was their character and their grit of who they were, who my kids were, who Mike Alvarado was, Ramel Brown, George Beam, and Emmy Andahar, and their story. And all week I just kept saying to them, I'm like, fellas, these guys, you know, you got to understand who you are. They're not meeting in classrooms. They're not getting their meals in to-go containers. They're on private planes. They are getting massages. They are, you know, I'm like, you got to really show, this is a chance for you to show the country what your DNA is all about. And I thought our guys really came out with a great edge to them, and battled for 40 minutes. Louisville made a lot of winning plays down the stretch. I think with about 3:54 left, we were up. And Luke hits a big 3. We lost him off a shot fake. Russ makes a big play. And they made 4 or 5 plays down the stretch that were really, really, you know, winning plays. You could tell their experience showed a little bit, and nothing but credit and respect to those guys in that. But it was a great game, you know, and it's an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah, I remember Coach was not happy that he drew Manhattan, because you knew every single thing about that offense, defense. No, y'all played a real good game. It was definitely very exciting to watch. And just seeing you, you know, I know, you know, you was like, wow, this is really happening. Okay, here we go. And man, I was really proud to see you over there, man. I think that was the first time I got to see you coach in person. And I remember when you was at Louisville. I was trying to meet up with you at the y'all were tailgate one day.
I remember that.
And I just remember in your voice hearing how, I could tell you've come so far in the game.
Yeah.
Just hearing how comfortable you was with as far as, how you was doing such a good job there and the recruiting class y'all brought in. And just, definitely proud to see you, still in the game, doing your thing and succeeding and changing young men's lives, because
that's what it's all about.
Little we know, our lives were being changed by not only on the court, but off the court, by some real strong men and people around the organization.
Yep, for sure.
Just want to, thank you for coming on the show. But before I go, hey, I'm going to go all the way back.
Oh, wow.
People don't know this guy right here. He used to have the Grand Cherokee with the chrome wheels on it that everybody borrowed with all the beats. And hey, we could hear you coming from all the way from Commonwealth Stadium before you got to the lodge, bro.
Hey, you know how much trouble. So this is where we got to clear a couple things up. First of all, my car was seen at a lot of places, okay, that I shouldn't have been, all right, okay? And I caught a lot of heat for some of that, all right? I mean, I was at parties and people getting in my face like, why is your car parked to my girls? And I'm like, what? What are you even talking about right now, my man? Like, so we know who was doing that, right? We know who was doing that. And then I don't know if you remember the first practice when big fella, Canada over here decides to get a little fender bender, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm getting yelled at by coach because I let him borrow my car. And I'm like, I thought I was being a good teammate, but there's so many stories, man. We were, when you think of the things we were doing, we all had the personalized plates then. I don't know if you remember those, with Al and Ron and DA. And
oh, man. Champion for that. He had plate mats.
He had DA 23 everywhere.
Oh, that one with Jamal. I just remember your face that day when
I was sick.
Man, you believe what big fella did.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was almost like you lost your dog or something.
Oh, I was like
heated.
Oh, I had to go tell my parents. I had to tell coach. Oh, it was. I was just like, oh, and on top of that, all I keep hearing is about how I'm driving around campus with loud music. Half the time, it's not even me. It's someone else. And I'm like, oh,
hey, that's the last time someone borrowed your car. I feel like that
was it. We ended that real quick.
That was the last time.
But when you talk about bringing it back, do you remember the last story? You remember when we were in the dorm, we lost to someone at home and Coach Smith came in and made us clean the lodge like at 12 at night. We were taking out the garbage. You remember that one? Oh, man. I was so scared that night because Coach P didn't come to the lodge. Coach P really didn't come to the lodge. And I heard that. We heard Coach Smith's voice. We were like, what's he doing here? Oh, man. Yeah, checking curfew.
That's crazy to see Coach Smith checking curfew. I thought, wow. And checking class. He checked class, too.
Check class. He'd show up in Dr. Daniels' history class. What are you learning today? Like, you're the coach of Kentucky right now. What are you doing? Like, shouldn't you be getting ready for Louisville or something?
I remember I was late to class and Coach Smith was in front of the classroom door. His eyes, how his eyes be looking like.
Yeah. Oh.
I was like,
give that little head tilt.
Give you a little by practice.
We had so many good stories, man. There's so many.
Yeah, man, it was good times. Man, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Always good to see you, man. I wish you the best of the luck, for the rest of the season, staying safe. It's a crazy different time. I mean, I'm still staying 6 feet, keeping my mask on and, trying to advise others to do the same.
Got mine right here. I wear it everywhere. Keep the mask on. Stay safe and healthy, man. Love to you and the daughters and the family and everyone, man. And I'm proud of you. And I can't thank you for the impact you had on me and always welcoming me and treating me like family since the day we met. And that's nothing but love.
Thanks, bro. Well, there you have it. Stephen Masiello, head coach, Manhattan College, my brother. Make sure you subscribe to the Media 68 Media Network Group, Field the 68 Media Network Group, and also the Burner Turner Show. Yeah.